Cold therapy has surged in popularity in the last few years, with celebrities, athletes, and wellness enthusiasts singing its praises. You've seen the videos, people breaking ice with a hammer to get in cold water. My gym now has a cold plunge. Heck, I even have a little tub in my backyard. From cold showers to ice baths, people are embracing the chill for its purported health benefits. But what does the science say about this phenomenon? So let's dive into the research and explore the potential benefits of cold exposure on your body and your mind. So one of the primary reasons cold therapy is gaining traction is its impact on our hormonal system. So basically, when you expose your body to cold, it's going to trigger the release of three key hormones, which are norepinephrine, epinephrine, and dopamine. These hormones are going to play a crucial role in activating your sympathetic nervous system, which is often referred to as the fight or flight response. One thing that's pretty cool though is that the elevation of these hormones doesn't just occur during the cold exposure itself. A lot of studies have shown that the hormone levels can remain elevated for an extended period afterwards, ranging from 30 minutes to even several hours. And of course, how much and for how long these are elevated depends on factors like water temperature and exposure time and your own response to it. So the benefits of increasing norepinephrine, epinephrine, and dopamine include improved mood, increased energy levels, and enhanced focus. And a lot of people say this feeling is pretty similar to the high they experience after a run or workout. So that's pretty cool, and I can attest to that to myself. And actually the mechanism is kind of similar to how caffeine affects our bodies, which explains why some people feel like they need less caffeine or coffee after introducing cold exposure to their routine. And like I said, this is legit. I've experienced it myself. I just feel alive after getting out of a cold shower or a cold plunge, especially when I do it first thing in the morning. I notice a focus boost pretty much into the early afternoon, maybe 11, noon, or 1-ish, and I find it makes me very productive in the morning. So to reap the full benefits of cold therapy, the water temperature needs to actually be pretty cold, enough for you to be like, oh shit. So a study comparing cold water immersion at different temperatures, including 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 70, and 90, found that only the 60-degree Fahrenheit group experienced significant increases in dopamine and norepinephrine levels. And that 60 degrees Fahrenheit is 15.5 Celsius, by the way, for you international viewers. And from there, even colder than that is probably better as well. So for those without a thermometer handy, there's a physiological indicator that you can use to gauge if the water is cold enough. Look for what researchers call the initial inspiratory gasp, which is like a deep instinctive breath your body takes when it first encounters cold water. You probably notice this in the ocean or a pool or a lake. It's kind of something similar there with cold exposure. This reaction suggests that temperature is low enough to trigger the desired hormonal response here. So basically, if you're hesitating to go in initially or you're dreading the thought of it, it's probably the right temperature. So while some studies have subjects endure hour-long cold water immersions, you don't need to do it for that long. It's gonna be a very long time. You got other things to do, I understand. So fortunately, research has shown benefits for much shorter durations, even as brief as like 20 seconds of cold exposure. But it is worth noting that a lot of these studies use ice baths instead of cold showers, which allows for a lot more full body immersion and dissipation of heat from your body. That said, even a 30-second cold shower can provide some noticeable benefits for a lot of people, especially if you've been doing none to begin with. But the key is consistency and gradually increasing your exposure time as your body adapts. Your body's smart, it's gonna adapt to these things. You're always gonna be increasing what you're doing. One aspect I've noticed with cold showers though is improved hair and skin texture. Not sure on the science on this one, but I'm thinking the cold water doesn't dry out your hair and skin as much, so you can better retain moisture in that way. So speaking of adaptation, it's important to understand the concept of attenuation when it comes to cold therapy. So like I said, over time your body becomes accustomed to the cold stimulus and the hormonal response may diminish a bit. And it's kind of like weightlifting. You can't curl the same weight for years and expect your biceps to grow. To continue experiencing the mental benefits, you may need to either 1, make the water colder, 2, increase the duration of exposure, or 3, just try different cold therapy methods, which could be like alternating between showers and ice baths, or whatever those things might be. So moving on, one of the most intriguing claims about cold therapy is its potential to boost metabolism and accelerate fat loss. The theory goes that exposure to cold increases your metabolism as your body works to generate heat, thus burning more calories in the process. But I'm a man of research. What does the actual research say? So some studies have shown that cold exposure can increase metabolism, typically around 15%. There was one 2021 study even found that cold water immersion could boost calorie burning up to 50% in well-trained athletes, potentially increasing their daily calorie expenditure from 2,000 to 3,000 calories per day, which would be nice. But at first glance, this seems very promising. Seems great, just get in some cold water, lose some fat. Given that 1 pound of fat does equal roughly 3,500 calories. You could lose a lot of fat per week if you're just getting in cold water, if this were true. But as with anything, especially anything that says it's a study, there's lots of caveats to consider. So 1 is the duration of exposure. The subjects in this study mentioned that they were immersed in cold water for over 3 hours. This is way longer than the average shower, let alone the portion someone should be sending in a cold tub in their backyard or, hogging the one in the gym. just not gonna do that. So the other thing in this study, the researchers measured metabolism during a cold exposure and used that value to estimate the 24-hour calorie burn. It's unlikely that the elevated metabolic rate would persist for the entire day after leaving the cold environment. So you can't just take, one small thing and just apply it for the rest of the day. It doesn't work that way. When you take these factors into account, the fat loss potential of brief cold showers or ice bath becomes a lot less significant. Sorry. But despite the limitations above, a recent study has rekindled some interest in cold therapy for fat loss, and this protocol involved 5 30-second cold showers per week, 1 2-minute cold water immersion to the neck per week, 10 minutes of natural rewarming after each exposure. After 8 weeks, male participants lost just over 1 centimeter off their waist circumference and experienced a significant reduction in visceral belly fat, which is the dangerous fat that's not healthy and tends to accumulate around your organs. Think of like the beer gut, pot belly. You don't want that. But again, you gotta approach these results with caution here. Just because something says it's a study doesn't mean that it can be applied to everyone or that the study was particularly well done. And with that, the study had several issues, including 1, lack of comparison to a control group. So maybe the people who didn't do the cold exposure also lost fat. Maybe they also did something that made them lose, waist circumference or visceral body fat, but it just wasn't measured to show the comparison. Another thing with this study is that there were no significant effects observed in female participants. So sorry, ladies. And again, there are other potential confounding factors that were not accounted for. So while the results were pretty intriguing, more rigorous research is needed before drawing any conclusions on cold exposure and fat loss. I'm just pretty skeptical on this one. I don't think it's gonna do much. Sure, there might be an increase in metabolism, but no one is spending hours in freezing cold water, and I think you're much better off just going for a leisurely walk. Walk your dog, walk your neighbor's dog, go out in nature, enjoy the sunshine. I think you're much better off burning calories that way. Now for some talk on muscle recovery and growth. So cold therapy, particularly in the form of ice baths, has been a staple in the recovery routines of a lot of elite athletes. I'm sure you've heard of icing a sore muscle. Multiple studies have demonstrated that cold exposure can 1, speed up recovery, 2, reduce muscle soreness, 3, decrease fatigue, 4, lower inflammation after intense training sessions. And I think these benefits are pretty valuable for athletes who need to recover quickly between events or training sessions, especially people who train, very often. Could be a useful tool. But for those primarily focused on building muscle and strength, the story is a little bit more complicated here. So there is an inflammation dilemma here. So after a workout, your muscles are going to experience temporary damage and inflammation. This process is a pretty critical part of how muscles actually grow bigger and stronger. By reducing inflammation, cold therapy, especially when applied immediately after training, may interfere with this response. In fact, there's 3 studies that have now shown post-training cold water immersion can significantly decrease muscle growth. You don't want that. So again, this is gonna be a problem for those trying to balance recovery with muscle building goals. The two just kind of don't really go hand in hand. And altogether, anti-inflammatories around a workout are gonna do the same thing, whether it's like an anti-inflammatory supplement and vitamin, like vitamin C or vitamin E, or N-acetylcysteine, which is another supplement, or even NSAIDs like ibuprofen. You will reduce the muscle growth response by reducing that inflammation. But sometimes you're hurting, you gotta get in cold water or something. So if you're trying to prioritize muscle growth and strength gains, consider the following guidelines. So 1, just avoid ice baths immediately after workouts. If you're doing cold therapy, try to do it well before your workout or at least 4 to 6 hours after. Another one is just to consider scheduling cold exposure on your rest days so it doesn't interfere with that. And for leg day recovery, wait several hours before using cold therapy. So it's worth noting that these studies primarily used intense ice bath protocols with subjects immersed for like 10 to 20 minutes. A quick cold shower after workout probably won't likely have significant negative effects on muscle growth, but it may also not provide meaningful recovery benefits as well. So it's kind of like this trade-off here. But beyond the physical effects, one of the most compelling reasons to actually incorporate cold therapy into your routine is its potential to actually strengthen your mind. I'm gonna get a little philosophical on you here today. So forcing yourself to endure the discomfort of cold water can be a powerful way to build mental toughness and resilience. So cold exposure is gonna activate an area in your brain that actually suppresses impulsivity. This can help you remain calm, avoid overreacting when faced with your daily stressors in your life, like traffic or needing to wake up early for work or an angry coworker, whatever it might be. The ability to stay composed under pressure is a valuable skill. You got to cultivate it, and it can transfer to various aspects of your life. Like I said, from work challenges to personal relationships, whatever you got going on. And with that, regular cold shower can help you develop tremendous grit and determination. So just think of this. By repeatedly pushing through the initial shock and discomfort of getting in cold water, you're training your mind to overcome obstacles and persist in the face of challenges. This mental fortitude will also translate into other areas of life. For example, during a grueling workout, you can apply the same mindset you use during cold therapy, viewing pain or discomfort as a temporary sensation that you can overcome with mental strength. Going back to fat a little bit, one of the most intriguing aspects of cold therapy research involves brown adipose tissue, which is commonly known as brown fat. So unlike white fat, which stores excess energy and is associated with obesity and other health-related issues, Brown fat is going to play a crucial role in thermogenesis, which is the production of heat in the body. And recent studies have uncovered some pretty cool connections between brown fat and overall health. One is just a lower disease risk. So people with detectable brown fat, which is usually visible around the neck and like the clavicle area, have found to have a lower risk of diabetes and cardiovascular disease compared to those without it. There are also going to be some metabolic benefits. So brown fat is packed with mitochondria, which are the energy producing powerhouse of the cell. And so when activated by cold, these mitochondria are going to break down sugars and fats to generate heat, potentially boosting your metabolism a little bit. And that brings us to white fat conversion. So cold exposure can stimulate the conversion of white fat into brown fat, which is a process known as browning. This could have implications for weight management and metabolic health, so it could be worth trying out and seeing how it goes for you there. And so a little bit more about how this works. So when you expose your body to intense cold, as I said, it quickly begins to pump out norepinephrine, which is basically just adrenaline. This hormone is going to signal the mitochondria in the brown fat cells and muscles to start breaking down those sugars and lipids to generate heat. A study found that after 4 weeks of daily 2-hour cold exposures, participants' ability to break down sugars doubled. And while this doesn't necessarily translate directly to weight loss, as the body could compensate by like increasing your appetite, making it balance out, it does suggest that cold therapy could have some metabolic benefits. But I will briefly go back to gender and sex here. So it is important to note that most human studies on cold exposure have focused on male subjects, which I feel like a lot of us men are the ones doing it anyway. I think this is significant because women tend to have a little bit more brown fat stores than men anyway, and their fat tissue appears to be a little bit more metabolically active than us men. So as a result, the effects of cold therapy on brown fat activation related health benefits may differ between genders. So definitely something to keep in mind there. Again, this is one thing that we need more research on for potential differences, but I'm not too big of a proponent from doing this from a brown fat activation standpoint anyway. Don't think it's going to do too much for you. I think that really the main thing is like the mental resilience aspect. But beyond its impact on fat metabolism, cold exposure can help reduce both physical and mental stress too. So the theory is that controlled exposure to stress, in this case cold. So if you are interested in incorporating cold therapy into your routine, it's essential to approach it pretty safely and also gradually as well. Here's some just general guidelines that I followed, works for me, and I recommend to other people. So just start slow. I think you should begin with pretty brief cold showers, like 30 seconds to 1 minute, and just gradually increase your duration over time. Listen to your body here. Everyone's cold tolerance is going to be different. Pay attention to how you feel and don't push yourself too hard too fast. We don't want you to pass out or anything. And with this also, beware of some risks. They do happen, they are a thing. Hypothermia is a real concern, especially for smaller people who lose heat more quickly. Protect your extremities, know your limits, don't go too hard here. Another thing that could be helpful is just having a blanket handy in case you cannot control the natural rewarming process. And again, talk to your doctor. I'm a doctor, not your doctor. So if you have any pre-existing health conditions, especially heart issues, I think you should talk to a healthcare professional before starting any cold therapy regimen. And again, consider timing. If you're using cold therapy for recovery, remember to time it appropriately in relation to your workouts to avoid it interfering with any muscle growth. And I think this is where you can make it fun in the game. So just try different methods. So as you become more accustomed to cold exposure, you may want to experiment with ice baths or other forms of cold therapy to intensify the benefits. And one of the biggest questions when using a cold plunge or a tub is, how do I get the water cold enough? So buying big bags of ice every day is not the most cost effective, I will say. One option is purchasing a cold plunge chiller that will maintain the temperature to your liking. Another option I found was to freeze ice packs or bottles of water and throw them in the tub before you go in. This one's particularly helpful if you have another freezer or like a chest freezer in like a garage or a basement for extra storage. Otherwise, like an ice machine in your fridge could be a pretty viable option, so definitely play around with this one there. So while researching cold therapy and its potential benefits, I first started with cold showers. At first, I did contrast showers, which are alternating between hot and cold until I could handle just cold. And eventually I just did 2-minute cold showers in the morning just to get me going. This was like med school time. But since moving to a new house that is a little lackluster in its cold water delivery to the shower, I decided to take the plunge, pun intended, and incorporate this practice in my daily routine with an actual cold plunge in my backyard. But I needed a convenient solution that would allow me to enjoy cold water therapy and its popular counterpart, heat therapy, in the comfort of my own home. And that's when I discovered SaunaBox, which is a company that offers both sauna and cold plunge solutions for home use. The SaunaBox bundle has been a game changer for my wellness routine. I think the sauna and the cold plunge bundle are very, very convenient to use. And I think having a sauna and cold plunge at home means I can do these practices whenever I want, without the need of going to a spa or a gym, which especially helps with consistency on the days that I am busy. I found that having these tools in my home has not only improved my physical and mental well-being, but has also saved me so much time in the long run. It's a no-brainer. If you are serious about incorporating both cold therapy and heat therapy into your wellness routine, highly recommend checking out a home solution like SaunaBox. And if you do get it, make sure you use my code Poulos10 just to save you a little bit of money as well. Otherwise, just put some ice in your tub and you'll be golden too. So while cold therapy isn't a magic bullet for weight loss or a cure-all for health issues, I think the growing body of research suggests that it can be a valuable addition to a well-rounded wellness routine. From some potential metabolic benefits to improved recovery to enhanced mental resilience, cold exposure is going to offer a unique set of advantages. But as with any wellness trend, approach cold therapy with a balanced perspective. While some of the immediate effects, like the invigorating rush of a cold shower, are undeniable, many of the long-term benefits will still require further study. Ultimately, the key to success with anything, including cold therapy, lies in consistency, gradual progression, and just listening to your body. Whether you're looking to boost your mood, challenge your mental toughness, or explore potential psychological benefits, cold exposure could be refreshing. So with that, thank you for watching the video. Make sure to let me know if you're enjoying cold plunges or cold showers and how you incorporate them in your life, or if there's any other biohacking type things that you found useful. And otherwise, make sure you drop a like and subscribe if you're not already, and I will catch you in the next video. See you later.